Welcome back to the Creatively Challenged podcast for Monday, December 18th, 2017. We, of course, the Creatively Challenged podcast, talk entertainment, news, and random topics we bring to this $34 card table. And now that I'm done speaking like a stenographer, I'm going to introduce Mike. Ryan's not here.
Yeah, we just buried him.
Yeah.
He's dead.
The dirt went right through the shotgun blast. Mike, how are you?
I'm sick, so all of you bear with me on this fucking sickness. Hopefully it's gone by next week.
Yeah, you're at the Stugless family Christmas parties on Saturday.
Yeah, which brings up questions. We'll probably have to record the podcast on Friday, right? Friday. We're not recording on Christmas Eve or the Stugless family Christmas party.
Or Christmas.
But that would be Monday, and we usually release the podcast on Monday.
Ooh, we're going to have a Christmas episode.
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. We can do, so this week, later on in the episode, you're going to hear an overrated, underrated segment, one of our next recurring segments. Also coming up later is our review of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, and then we have another random discussion topic. But next week is a Would You Rather week, so we could center it around Christmas. Or Hanukkah, or...
We're not Jewish.
I know, but to accommodate the Jews that listen to this podcast.
Now, there was no influx on the Jew there. You were not saying it offensively. The Jews.
The Jews, yeah.
Not the Jews.
Not the Jews.
Yeah, that's how Hitler said it.
Well, he said it like, Jordan!
Yeah.
And he said it very angrily. He's such a passionate speaker.
Oh, he captivated me. Can you imagine being there?
In 1930s Germany?
Oh, be great.
I'd just be like, I don't know what this guy is saying, but he's really passionate about it. He's really angry. Something must have pissed him off.
Mm.
And then you find out it's an entire religion of people. It's just like,
and then you found out he
lost his credibility.
Before that, he had a coup and he tried to overthrow the government, and he was out of control, that one.
He was the Sheev of his time.
Yeah.
Sheev, of course, being Sheev Palpatine, who Jar Jar Binks granted emergency powers to, which led to the Empire. So is Darth Jar Jar a thing?
No.
It's kind of funny.
He deserves nothing
more
cool that would come to him. You know what I like to think? I like to think that Sheev, since
mind
Jar Jar's so simple-minded that he just took his mind over and did it.
I like that too.
Yeah. Sheev's hung.
Yeah. I like Sheev.
I don't like Jar Jar.
Sheev. So for any Star Wars fans out there who didn't know that Emperor Palpatine's first name was Sheev, now you know. And we only refer to him as Sheev.
He's the Sheevinator.
He's the Sheevinator. And Sheev is just second best Star Wars villain of all time, of course, behind Vader, and we're just distracted because there's football on Sunday.
Can the argument be made that he is a better villain than Vader because he's the string puller?
Yeah, well, yeah,
I don't
sure.
believe it. I'm saying, can the argument be made?
If somebody said, like, Sheev is the best Star Wars villain, I'd be like, yeah, sure. He's got the argument. The thing is like, Vader comes back. And, the whole side to Vader is he was once Anakin, and then at the end of his life, he became Anakin again.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the time being, Vader was dope, and everything he did was awesome. But Sheev remained evil from the start and, made Vader. Almost.
Big chair guy, that Sheev.
Oh, he's huge on the chair. I want an Emperor's chair that, overlooks, a city, and I just can, turn around on people that, enter my office. And then ask them if whoever entering is threatening me, Master Jedi. So somebody comes in, it's my secretary. I go, "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?" And then And then you go, I am the Senate. And then she goes, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Well, my secretary could be a guy.
No. No.
Probably not.
No.
But, it's 2016.
17.
2016 sounds better. I've heard it both ways. But 2016, so secretaries can be men.
Well, the question is there still women oppression in a galaxy far, far away?
No.
Yeah.
All the rebel
Doesn't seem like
all the
it.
rebel pilots in The Last Jedi are like women.
And fucking Rose and
She stinks.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into
You know what?
that.
Let's get into
Let's
the
get
podcast.
into the podcast itself. We bullshitted along here for 5 minutes. Okay, so to start our news here, something that we've talked about the last few weeks is official. It's a done deal. Fox and Disney have Disney has officially acquired Fox, and the superhero game is at unreal heights. People are so excited that the X-Men and the Avengers are going to be in the same universe. Deadpool is going to be in the same universe. And something that struck me, and one of my concerns for this deal, was how are they going to handle Deadpool? But Bob Iger said that that Deadpool is going to remain R-rated, even though it's a Disney property now. So that's awesome. So how do you feel this went down? I mean, we've already kind of given our opinions on what we want for like X-Men, Fantastic Four with the Avengers, but like now that the deal's officially done, what have you seen from Disney so far that you like?
I want them to take maybe things like the Fantastic Four and lesser known X-Men characters and maybe make them into shows on their streaming service that's coming. Maybe that's an opportunity as well. Keep expanding that small screen universe that they have. I don't see any problem with that. I see only good things coming of this. I just worry. I don't want characters like Logan being Wolverine, Professor X, and Magneto, namely being those three, to be changed too much because I feel like they've done it so well already, having James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart playing Charles Xavier, Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender playing Magneto, and Hugh Jackman. I can't see anyone being recast, and I want those characters maybe left alone. With that said, on the Fantastic Four side, they can do a lot with Doctor Doom, and we talked about that. That's what I want to see. But I see only good things coming of this. I just wonder how they're going to handle the already existing X-Men universe, if they're going to scrap it or what's to come of that.
Because the Dark Phoenix or whatever, I think that's what the movie's called, where Sophie Turner is reprising her role as Jean Grey. That was all set to go. And I'm curious.
I think they're shooting it.
Yeah, so I'm curious how the production of that goes along, considering that if they are shooting it, then Disney takes control over the entire project halfway through. We don't know how that goes. Typically, when things change halfway through a project, they don't typically work out well. Hopefully, that's the opposite for the Han Solo movie that comes out in May. Yeah, we have another Star Wars movie coming out in 5 months, and it's kind of nerve-wracking because we don't have a trailer for it yet, but we're talking about Fox and Disney. So I think the best thing that could have happened was immediately the first day this deal gets done, Bob Iger says Deadpool's going to stay rated R. So they're going to make sure still that fans are happy, and Disney's going to work a way around keeping Deadpool the way he is and the way people like him, which is fantastic. And then I've already given my opinions on last week's show that I want the Fantastic Four to be recast and redone, but if not, Doctor Doom is an incredible villain that can be cast and, can be worked into Avengers storylines. And then the X-Men, Hugh Jackman did say he'd come back and be Logan once if it meant he was in an Avengers movie. So we'll see if that happens, but that kind of eliminates Logan being like his last run as Wolverine. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot to go forward with, but going forward, there's the X-Men are with the Avengers. So
look at this. So the Fantastic Four have failed once or twice now on the big screen, and Daredevil failed on the big screen, Punisher failed on the big screen, and now they're bringing properties like that to the small screen. So I think that could really help them, because what's really hard to do with a Fantastic Four origin story is you have to do it for 4 people.
Right.
that could really work in like a 10
in
to
a
13
TV show.
episode run.
Yeah, right. And each kind of character gets their own 45-minute episode to explore where they came from, rather than a quick like 5-minute scene in a movie, which really takes time away from the central plot. I agree with that. That is definitely a good way to go after it. So maybe that's something to consider. But I'd still like Doctor Doom to be a big screen villain because
Definitely
he
with him.
deserves that.
Definitely
But
with
the
him.
Fantastic Four, they could work on the small screen. If they ever wanted to bring the small screen and meet with the big screen heroes, which is something I've wanted since
This might be the best opportunity to do
Marvel
that.
started making TV shows. Like, that's definitely something that I want. Like Daredevil to meet Spider-Man, because those guys hang out all the time. So that'd be awesome. Um, other than that, I mean, the biggest news is clearly Deadpool out of this. But this is an awesome deal. I'm glad it happened, and there's a lot of potential here going forward with superhero movies. What's next on the docket there? We got another Ian McKellen news.
Sir Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, has said that he wants to play Gandalf in Amazon's Lord of the Rings show. Now, when I first read this, I was like, I don't want this to happen. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, Gandalf is 7,000 years old, so maybe he can be the one that connects the movies to the show, even if the show has nothing to do with the movies. Let's say he's a guest star in it, because I don't want to center on him.
Right.
We've seen 3 movies with him. Actually,
6 movies.
in The Hobbit. So, yeah. But I'm not totally against this. I was at first, and then I thought about it. I'm like, this could work.
Right. Like, if Gandalf is just going to make, like, a cameo appearance in, like, 1 or 2 episodes, give it to Ian McKellen. I mean, he's Gandalf. They didn't recast him for the Hobbit trilogy. Like, he was, I mean, he clearly looked and sounded older, even though the Hobbit takes place before the Lord of the Rings, but nobody cared. Like, Ian McKellen is Gandalf. So if it's just if the show doesn't center around Gandalf, I would love to have him play Gandalf. But like, if they're remaking the entire Lord of the Rings story, which is rumored that they might, then they should recast him. Because if they're gonna recast like Frodo and Sam and Legolas, then they should recast everybody.
It also might be that someone just asked him this question. They're like, oh, do you want to be in it? And he's like, yeah, I'd totally be down. So it kind of sounds like that he probably hasn't even been contacted.
No, it's kind of like Ewan McGregor leading up to the Obi-Wan movie. He's just like, yeah, if they call me, I'll do it. But like, if they were gonna do a Gandalf or they were gonna do an Obi-Wan, like, why would they not call Ewan McGregor and why would they not call Ian McKellen? So if Ian McKellen hasn't been called, then they're probably not gonna do anything with Gandalf.
Star Wars has showed up in both of our news stories now.
Well, this is a very Star Wars centered episode. A lot of our underrated, overrated topics are Star Wars topics, and our discussion topic is Star Wars. And we're also reviewing a Star Wars movie. So
are we?
That's what it says right here.
Oh, all right.
on our Google.
I
Doc,
didn't see it.
Oh shit! I didn't see it either.
No. Who put it on here?
I don't know.
All right, let's move on.
All right. Okay, so our last piece of news, because this was a Star Wars heavy week, so we could have put 10 more news topics on here that relate to Star Wars, but here's something not Star Wars before the rest of the episode is dominated by Star Wars. George Clooney is working with Netflix on a Watergate show, and recently with the Post coming out and everything that's happening with journalism and the White House and the Hollywood scandals lately, a Watergate show could be a very good watch, especially with George Clooney at the helm. So, Carl Woodward and Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. Carl and Bob. Woodward and Bernstein, they're well known for their last names, but Carl and Bob are their first names. So just have fun with that as you will. But Carl Woodward and Bob, who cares what their first names are? Woodward and Bernstein, they were journalists that exposed the Watergate scandal. A great movie from 1978 called All the President's Men, starring Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, tells this story. But to tell it in a show, I assume it's going to be like a dramatic miniseries that Netflix could come out with. could retell that story, whether it be from the president's side of things, but even if it is from the president's side of things and how it was handled, there's no way they don't mention the journalism work that got it out. So this is a very interesting topic for the show, especially in the current climate. What do you think about George Clooney's idea here?
Is he gonna be starring in it?
I'm not sure. All that's out right now is Netflix and him are meeting and working on it. I assume he'll direct and produce. I don't know if he'll star. So I don't know if he came to Netflix with the idea or Netflix went with him. If Netflix went to him, he might star. But if he came to Netflix with the idea, then I assume he's good direct and produce or write or something like
No,
that.
there's no reason to think this won't be good.
Right.
It's a Netflix show, and you have a
And it's
name
George
like
Clooney.
George Clooney
Yeah.
involved, and a great story to tell behind it. You could tell this story from a variety of different angles. That's what's pretty fascinating about it. So yeah, I obviously it's very early in the works, but the sound of it is very cool. I'd be really interested to see Clooney play Nixon because Nixon was fucking butt ugly, and George Clooney, he made our handsome man club.
He did. He is a handsome fella. He pulls off the gray look so well.
He does.
You know, he and my mom were born on the exact same day.
Really, not the same year.
No, the exact same day, exact same year. May 6, 1961.
I see.
Well, that's my mom's birthday. And George Clooney's birthday.
Get
For
out.
Anybody that was. Hi, Mom.
Aren't you guys on?
Yeah.
Yes. We're recording
Yeah,
a
just have
podcast,
everyone fucking come in, why don't you?
And Mike's mom came down in the basement.
Dad said,
Do you want to come talk on the mic?
no.
You got to lean in. You got to talk right into it.
She's gonna
You got to.
Get out.
Okay, she just left.
get out. Go. Bye. See you later. Get out. Dad said you guys were shopping all afternoon.
That,
Get out.
that interruption was brought to you by Mike's mom. A frequent listener to this podcast, an incredible listener. And that rounds out the news. Now we're going to delve completely back into this Star Wars episode with some underrated, overrated, bringing back another recurring segment that Ryan and I did last month. So we're going to fire off some underrated, overrated topics and see what we think is underrated and overrated. So the first one, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Do you think it's underrated, overrated?
Incredibly underrated movie. People like to
agree.
use the term the prequels, which is totally fair.
Whoa.
Sounded like a fucking 13-year-old balls dropping. People like to group the prequels into one word or one phrase, and that's fair for Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, but Revenge of the Sith rounds out the story pretty well. It's got its flaws, definitely, with Hayden Christensen at points, but they focus less on the romance, and they're just like, we're gonna make a blockbuster.
Right.
And there's no way you watch this movie and you're like, oh, this isn't entertaining.
Right.
It's a fun movie. It's like I'd give it like a 4 out of 5. I really
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's
It's-
not bad by any stretch.
It's definitely underrated.
It's got the two best, probably lightsaber
It
battles
holds
as well.
the best lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars, Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's definitely an underrated film and cracks my top 4 Star Wars movies. I love this movie so much. I mean, like, the Star Wars of our generation was the prequels, you know, and I can admit that Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones suck, but like Revenge of the Sith is an awesome movie that I really enjoy. I get its flaws, but you know it takes a darker turn. It shows Anakin's final transformation into Darth Vader, the hero or the villain that everybody knows. And I thought it was handled well. The action was awesome in that movie, and it's definitely underrated. People group that in with Clones and Phantom Menace, which it should. It rounds out that trilogy, but it's definitely the best movie of that trilogy, and it's certainly not overrated. And when people say they hate it,
Everyone just went in with a negative mindset.
right. I don't think it should be as hated as
Even
it is.
even critic wise, it's not rated poorly.
No.
It's at like 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
All right. We both thought Revenge of the Sith is underrated, and kind of definitely is. But next one, Jelly Donuts. Mike, Jelly Donuts.
Overrated.
Overrated. Oh,
Jelly donuts are overrated.
really?
You want to know why?
Why?
Because they're deceiving. If someone brings a package of donuts and they don't specify, they're like, I got donuts, and you grab a jelly donut and you bite into it. You're like, what the fuck is this?
No,
It's not done, and then you look and it's a jelly donut. If I know it's a jelly donut, then that's a different story. But it always catches me off guard, and I'm fucking pissed off
yeah,
about
but
it.
Dunkin' just they only do the jelly donut like like it's got the sugar on top. And it's like a Dunkin' jelly donut is not deceiving whatsoever. It's like, oh, that's a Dunkin' jelly donut. It's amazing.
Listen, I'm grabbing fried dough. I'm not thinking it through.
Okay, yeah, I had donuts this morning, but
Did you have jelly
I
donuts this
did,
morning?
I did while I was making
Long
this
John's
list.
also overrated.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like Long Johns, they're just longer donuts. They're the hot dog of the.
I feel like they're
world.
dried out more.
Yeah, but there's more frosting on them. Think about that.
This is a conversation to be had
Yeah.
for another time.
Yeah, but jelly donuts, I think they're underrated. People usually don't go for the jelly donut, but I am full on for the jelly donut. People also usually don't go for the Boston cream donuts, but I love Boston cream donuts.
Cream pie.
Yeah. So as long as you're safe with your bites and make sure like jelly and cream isn't like flowing out the sides, then you're all good. I love the jelly donut and the Boston cream. I think they're underrated. I think they're better than the Long John. I think they're better than the regular frosted donut. But again, we could talk about donuts all day. Donuts are fantastic. All right, next underrated over Ewoks.
Ewoks from Return of the Jedi.
Yes,
Now, the Ewoks get a very bad rap.
they do.
They suck.
No, they don't.
They suck. And I can't call them overrated because they're massively discriminated against. But I will say, I'll call them underrated. They have way too much screen time, but they're cute.
Yeah.
But they also take out way too many stormtroopers. So I'm going to go like a tentative underrated because there's really no side to take.
Yeah. I go underrated because people hate on Ewoks. Like, people hate Ewoks so much. And I don't. I think it's awesome that Sheev, like, didn't think about Ewoks or couldn't, like, foresee the Ewoks taking down the Empire. Some people think that's stupid. I think that's awesome that, like, little creatures are able to take down the Empire.
They were so clearly just a selling point.
Oh, yeah.
Like
But,
the Porgs.
But, like, the Ewoks serve way more purpose than the Porgs do.
Yeah.
They serve more purpose than, like, Jar Jar Binks did. Like, the Ewoks are actually something that, like, should be loved rather than hated.
You want to know why they're hated too? Because fucking 3PO becomes like their king. And 3PO sucks.
Yeah. But
He should have been on
and
here.
he does
Overrated. Fuck
well,
3PO.
I don't think anybody likes 3PO. So like that's the thing. I know some people hate Ewoks, some people don't. That's why it's more controversial. 3PO everybody fucking hates. So it's not really controversial. All right, the next underrated overrated. We both think Ewoks are underrated. Swiss cheese. Think it's underrated or overrated?
I think Swiss cheese is good with the right sandwich, but because of how poignant it is, I don't like it by itself. I'm going to go overrated.
I'll also say overrated. So Swiss cheese, like is just kind of a bland cheese. It doesn't really have much flavor. It just kind of adds the fact that it's cheese.
And it's strong.
It's very so it's very like it's a strong flavor of nothing. Like you're having a Swiss cheese on the sandwich or you have Swiss cheese on a burger because like it's just like there's definitely cheese on here, but it doesn't add much. I don't really like mushroom Swiss burgers. I don't really like ham and Swiss sandwiches, but I'll eat them both. But like if the ham and cheddar is way better than the ham and Swiss.
If the Swiss
the
is
ham and
melted,
Swiss-
though, it's much better.
Oh yeah, well the ham and Swiss is a classic, and I'll eat the ham and Swiss. But ham and cheddar is good, and provolone is the king of cheeses. Don't at me on the provolone because provolone goes on anything. But the Swiss, like you take your wins with your losses on Swiss cheese, and I think it's overrated.
I agree.
All right, next one. Back to Star Wars. Jango Fett.
Jango Fett is so overrated. Jango Fett is so overrated because they're like, all right, Boba Fett was awesome. We're going to give Boba Fett a backstory through his dad. Now, the fact that the clones were made after him, that's cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's a gunslinger, that's cool. But in terms of a character, he's literally just Boba Fett. They're like, all right, we got to find a way to give a Fett more screen time.
Yeah, he's fan service.
And then Mace Windu cuts his head off, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, like Jango Fett only appears in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and like he's clearly there to like give more backstory and give more screen time to Boba Fett, but if he was blue, and and he gets beheaded in the same movie he's introduced in, and it is cool that the clones were made after him, and that's how the Clone Wars started, was because of Jango Fett. But he's an overrated character. He adds less than Boba Fett does, and Boba Fett doesn't add that much to the Star Wars story other than the fact that he's like a mysterious badass.
He would have been cooler if they'd introduced him on the battlefield. And he was mowing Jedis down.
Yeah.
But he kills like that one guy who for some reason jumps
Just-
in front of
yeah,
Dooku,
thinks it's
and then
gonna
Jango
work.
Fett just shoots him, and the guy falls off, and it's like, well, that was uneventful. That's just retarded on that guy's part.
Like, he just like okay, so
Dooku would have
not-
killed him. Had
I
he-
know, like now you're jumping at a Sith Lord and you're this unnamed Jedi B. Like, did you really think you were gonna take him down? And then like Dooku didn't even act. Dooku didn't pull his lightsaber. Dooku didn't do his Sith lightning. He just let Jango Fett take care of him. Jango Fett's still overrated.
Yeah.
though, so. All right. Next one. Popcorn.
I love popcorn. I'm gonna go underrated because of the things you can put on popcorn. When I thought popcorn is pretty generic until I found out about the M&M popcorn.
Oh, the M&M popcorn. I was going to talk about the M&M.
The M&M popcorn. And that makes it underrated because in chocolate covered popcorn, you could do a lot with it. It's
Yeah.
very deceiving. Also, when you put butter on it, it's fantastic.
butter.
So popcorn's fantastic.
I think popcorn is a bit overrated though. I think popcorn, it's become like the trope. You have to go to the movies, you have to get popcorn and a drink. And I like popcorn.
I think candy's starting to replace popcorn at the movie.
Oh
theater.
yeah, and people are putting candy in popcorn. Like, believe me, I love M&Ms in popcorn, but the fact that I have to put M&Ms in the popcorn to enjoy it more kind of defeats the purpose of popcorn. And I buy popcorn. I have popcorn in my cabinet down at school that I just haven't opened because in the middle of the afternoon, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, let me make a bag of popcorn."
Do you remember when Dave was at our place and he was like, "You guys got popcorn?" And we're like, "No, we don't."
And, I started buying popcorn because I always buy M&Ms. I can't not have candy in the house. So I'll always buy M&Ms or Kit Kats or Reese's or whatever, but mainly M&Ms so that I could put in the popcorn. I bought popcorn because I was just like, okay, maybe I can just change up just eating chocolate candy to put it in some salty snack that will also stop my heart. And yeah, I still haven't opened the popcorn because I just I think it's overrated. Don't like the popcorn that much. And I don't like how sometimes the kernels get stuck in your teeth and.
That's why you don't eat the fucking kernels.
Well, I know, but then when you just go in and you grab a cluster of popcorn and there's just an unpopped kernel in there and you just fucking bite down on it and it's just like, fuck.
I usually
a
have the
kernel.
wherewithal to notice when a kernel's in my hand.
Maybe I'm just a fucking idiot. All right, next one. The Star Wars TV shows, Rebels and Clone Wars.
Underrated. They had a lot of continuity and bridge gapping between events.
Mhm.
They add between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and there's some kid-centered episodes, but for the most part, it adds a lot of mythos and really cool characters. And the Clone Wars fills in the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and it's better than both Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and it's a kid-centered TV show.
Right.
I think they're both underrated. I haven't seen every episode of both, but they both have some really strong episodes in there.
Right, I agree. I'll get more into Star Wars fans themselves when we're reviewing the film. But these two shows are always looked down upon because they're like made for kids and they're on
No
kids
one watches
networks.
them.
But like, and no one watches them because of that. But Rebels and Clone Wars both add great lore to the Star Wars story, and they're awesome shows that I've really grown to enjoy watching. And like George Lucas directs and writes the Clone Wars TV show, and he wrote a better show than he did the first two movies of the franchise. So, like, I love the Clone Wars. It adds a lot more to the time in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And then Rebels is an awesome new show. It shows the birth of the rebellion. And it has James Earl Jones come in as Darth Vader. There's a guy who comes in and does a great Tarkin impression. And it shows a lot to how the Empire started to fall. It gives more context to Rogue One and A New Hope. So I really enjoy it, and I think they're underrated. And I think, like, Star Wars fans with, quotes around them, because people just look down on anything that's not the original trilogy, and it just kind of sucks it. But I'll talk about that more when we review the movie.
What's also really cool is that the movies expand upon characters like Darth Maul. They give them a proper backstory that they weren't able to do, but it also creates some really new adversaries that are awesome, like Grand Admiral Thrawn and Rebels and
Cad Bane
and Asajj Ventress in the originals. Like, they have some really, really cool characters that if you watch them develop, they're pretty menacing themselves. People have called for characters like Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress
to show up in
movies because they're so beloved. Those are real Star Wars fans.
Yeah, and those, like, there's movements to have, like, Ahsoka and Ezra Bridger, like, in Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Because they're adding more heroes to Battlefront 2 video game. And there are movements to have these characters alongside characters like Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa, Han Solo, Darth Vader, because people love them so much. And I just wish there was more of a big loving rather than just a small portion. But, like I said, I'll talk more about Star Wars fans when we review Episode 8. All right, next underrated, overrated, Mario Kart.
You go first.
Okay, I think Mario Kart is overrated because Mario Kart is such a simple concept, and they've made 8 of these Mario Kart games, or probably 10 of them, maybe more than that, and they all follow the same principle. So Mario Kart is overrated because it's just the same game on a different console.
Explain
over
what
and
the
over
game is.
again.
For
So
the
Mario,
uninitiated.
if you
as
don't know
Ryan
what
says it.
Mario Kart is, you're kind of an idiot. But Mario Kart is a racing game that stretches across all of the Nintendo gaming platforms, that has Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, all the Mario characters, and they race in karts. And so I just got a Nintendo Switch. You and I have been playing Mario Kart 8 a lot recently, and I just realized, like, I love Mario Kart and I'll play it all the time, but, like, it can get exhausting, and people who continually play that game and, like, love it so much, like, I can't get behind it. It's a fun game, but it's just the same thing over and over again. So I think it's overrated. I enjoy the Mario Party games a lot more than Mario Karts.
I'm also going to go overrated. It's extremely addicting and fun to play. You cannot play it by yourself, number one. I don't think it's fun to play by yourself.
No, it's not.
Like you said, it's exhausting and frustrating.
Yeah.
And there's no story.
Mm-mm.
I think I'd like it more if there was even a simple campaign.
Right.
Like,
But it's just continually just a party racing game, which
Yeah.
is fine. I mean, it's fun. Like I said, we both play it, but it does lack, like, if they're going to continue to make them, it lacks something that...
substance.
Yeah, and it's just a racing game. All right. Next one, mint chocolate chip ice cream. I know you're a big mint chip guy.
I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I really can't give an unbiased opinion here because there's a couple things on this list I'm seeing that are some of my favorite things, actually. Mint chocolate chip ice cream is pretty delicious. So I have to go underrated just because of how much I love it. I get it on ice cream. You know what? It is overrated as an ice cream itself, better as a shake.
I love the mint chocolate chip shake. And I do like mint chocolate chip ice cream, but as an ice cream, it is overrated. I think people slack on Moose Tracks. Moose Tracks is my favorite. I think people slack on a little bit of a Neapolitan. Neapolitan always gets overlooked. That's a good ice cream. I just think people always go with mint chip, and I agree with you. Mint chip is a great shake. Not really good as an ice cream. It's always in our freezer because my dad loves mint chocolate chip, and I just kind of grew to resent it because I won't settle for mint chocolate chip. I prefer a
It's kind of up in the air. You can have a really delicious ice cream, but it depends on the brand. Some of them are
sometimes they're too minty,
weird.
or
Yes.
sometimes there are too many chocolate chips to where it just kind of tastes like chocolate ice cream.
Yeah.
Like you can mess up a mint chocolate chip ice cream, and there's too many brands and too many mint chocolate chip ice creams that just kind of make it an overrated ice cream. I think there's too much love for it, and it can be screwed up. Meanwhile, you can't screw up like a chocolate ice cream.
Fair.
Saying "bless you" after somebody sneezes.
Overrated.
Why?
I think it's good. Oh, actually, you know what? No, it's underrated because I enjoy it. I enjoy saying it to people. I just made an idiot out of myself. It's underrated because I always say bless you, and I enjoy when people say bless you to me. It's a common courtesy. The cynic in me gets pissed when people don't say it. That's what I was
Right.
kind
And
of getting
what
at.
when I sneeze and nobody says bless you, it's almost like holding the door for somebody and they don't say thank you. Like it's just part of the culture, you know. And there's a Seinfeld episode about this where Jerry just says like, "Why don't you just say like you're so good looking after you sneeze because, what's the bless you going to do? When you tell somebody they're good looking, it's going to make them feel better after they sneeze." But I think it's underrated and it should happen more. But there's a radius of space in which you can't say bless you to somebody. Like if somebody sneezes across the classroom, in college, and like
Someone else has got it covered over there.
Somebody
It's like
should
5 feet.
Yeah,
the
somebody should say it. Yeah, but like when you're in that radius and somebody does it, and you don't say bless you, like it's definitely a thing. It's underrated. People should do it more, but not obnoxious. I remember those kids in like high school that like somebody had sneezed and then across the classroom they'd just be like, "Bless you," like just obnoxiously and stupid. I feel like my younger brother Tink does that.
I think that's a teacher's job.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Teacher, you're up there teaching, and one of your students sneezes, say bless you. You're gonna be a teacher. Are you gonna do that?
I think now I'm going to.
Now you have to because
They
you're on
kinda said
record
it,
saying
yeah.
that you're going to do it. Now here's the underrated, overrated. After that, here's the rebuttal: saying thank you to someone who says bless you.
It has to be done.
Right,
It has to be done.
right. So, it's definitely
'Cause the-
underrated because this is a shot right back at the people who don't say bless you, because like if somebody does say bless you and you get a thank you back, then it's like your bless you meant something,
Mhm.
and if you're gonna say bless you to somebody, you want it to mean something. You don't want them to just shrug it off. They're blessing you for you sneezing. They hope you're okay. So you gotta say thank you back to that person.
I agree.
Like if there's no thank you to the bless you, it makes the bless you void. So you got to make sure the bless you counts.
Yeah. Make sure you say bless you and thank you.
Yeah. And if somebody's holding the door open for you, say thank you too.
Now you're welcome. Is that needed? When someone says thank you, I usually just am like, yep.
I say yep. Sometimes I say you're
No
welcome.
problem. No
I say
problem's my big one.
No worries. I say no worries a lot, or I'll just give like a head nod with the lip curl. I go like, and that's bad radio because nobody can see it. But like the lip curl, you bring your lower lip over your top lip and you do a nod with your eyebrows down. Like that's what I do.
No thank you. I want to break the glass and fucking slit their throat.
Yeah. And
It's like I didn't have to hold the fucking door,
no,
bitch.
and I don't want to hold the door for you, but it's just the right thing to do. Like I hate when I'm walking out of the library and somebody just flings the door shut. Like people are constantly opening and closing the doors at the library. Somebody's behind you. Hold the door open for a second.
Quick look over the shoulder.
Yeah. And or just like using the force and knowing that somebody's behind you. You know, you can feel somebody's presence behind you. Like, you know if somebody's behind you.
Yeah.
So you just hold the door open. And then when somebody says thank you, or if they don't say thank you, if they don't say thank you, punch them in the teeth. And then if they do, then say you're welcome, or give them the head nod, or you say no worries or no problem or yep. All right, next underrated overrated, Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning is my favorite, probably athlete of all time because
I know,
he's the one
that's
that
why I
got
put
me
it
into
on
sports.
here, yeah.
Peyton Manning as a playoff quarterback is overrated. I can admit that. He won 2 Super Bowls. He went to 4. People probably think he should have won more. But as a regular season quarterback, he is beyond underrated. He never, until he got to Denver, really had a proper defense, number one. And number two, statistically, what he did is incredible. And he always got his team to about a 12-4 or 11-5 record with a defense that was usually ranked below 25th.
True.
So comparing him to Tom Brady, yeah, he's probably overrated. But in terms of like what he was able to do and how he dominated the regular season, I'm going to go overrated in that aspect.
I think yes. I mean, as a Patriots fan, as a Tom Brady fan, I'd say when talked about greatest quarterback of all time, Peyton Manning is a little overrated in that discussion. But in terms of the game, I mean, Peyton's like top 3 quarterbacks of all
Yeah.
time. He's certainly not
Like
overrated.
I'd go
His
like
career,
Brady, Montana.
yeah, his career is not overrated, but when you're talking about greatest quarterback of all time, I think he is a little bit overrated in that aspect. But Peyton set a pace for the game. I mean, him and Brady playing alongside each other, some of the greatest quarterback matchups in games in the history of football. And you know, he certainly is somebody that I respect and is definitely a top 3 quarterback. But you know, greatest of all time, definitely an overrated discussion. But still love Peyton Manning. The game of baseball, next underrated, overrated.
I played baseball, and it's a very fun sport, but watching it can be a drag in the regular
162
season.
games.
I'm gonna go overrated. Besides playoff baseball,
Yeah.
playoff baseball is awesome, but besides that, it's a drag, man.
It's America's pastime. It's an incredible game. You know, I've seen history happen, and you know, it's an incredible game. But all the stuff seems to happen in October. There's 162 games. I'm glad there is a professional sport that plays over the summer because you know there's gonna be some baseball game on over the summer that you can turn on and watch. But the season is so long. I don't think they should start in like March or April. I think they should start in like May or June and then play to October. You know, because hockey and basketball are still going on up through June. So baseball should start the season.
I think it fucks a lot of teams over too because if a team gets hot and then they get cold, there's just way too many tides throughout the season.
It usually happens to the White Sox within the last 10 years. Like the White Sox haven't made the playoffs since '08. So the White Sox, they will a few times over the past 10 years, they've had an incredible start. 2 years ago, when the Cubs won the World Series, at some point, at the first 2 or 3 months of the season, the White Sox and the Cubs were the 2 best teams in baseball. Then the Sox fell off bad, and that's usually what happens. But you know, it just sucks for teams that have a great April, May, June, July, and then can fall short because of injuries or exhaustion heading into fall and, you know, the playoff season in October.
It's so much to ask a player to care every game they play.
Right.
When you're playing
162
essentially
at least.
a third of the days in a year.
Right. It's asinine. It's crazy. I think the baseball season should be shortened, but I don't know. I mean, NBA players are asking for 82 games less. I don't know. I don't like that either. All right, next underrated, overrated. Penultimate underrated, overrated. Pineapple on pizza.
You don't do that. I know you do, but I don't like mixing sweet and savory in any aspect. I hate the pineapple on the pizza.
I love it. I think it's underrated. I think more people should do it. It's a great addition to a pizza. You can put pineapples in omelets, making it a Hawaiian omelet. Um, what what's your
Omelet's a different conversation, though.
yeah? But it's still the sweet and savory.
Yeah, but it's not. You're not talking about that.
I know. I'm
There's a
I'm
lot more to
defending.
take in with a pizza because you have sauce, cheese, and bread, as opposed to an omelet where it's mostly just
And
egg
ham.
and meat.
It works. I love the pineapple pizza. It's just a great. It's a great pizza. I don't know. Like I really almost can't defend it. It's just delicious. Like I don't know why people don't like it. I mean, I understand why like Sicilians don't like it. The people who invented pizza, like they're into the margarita pizza and the marinara pizza. But like I mean, pineapple on pizza is a good American twist that I enjoy.
It's a Hawaiian twist.
The Hawaiian twist. What about pineapple as a fruit?
I love it. It's my
great.
favorite fruit.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I'm just like I said, sweet and savory for me is always a weird contrast. Like when people do like chocolated bacon, I'll eat
That's
it because it's
weird.
bacon,
Yeah,
but it's at the same
that's
time it's like,
weird.
why am I
right.
eating this?
And then like deep fried Twinkies and like deep fried Oreos. Like I
They're
like I
pretty
get
good,
it. I know,
but it's just like-
but it's like why?
Yeah.
Like we don't need this. Um. All right, the last one, chicken parm. Solely because I'm having chicken parm for dinner tonight.
Chicken parm can be done incorrectly,
Yeah.
but if it's good, it is like second to none in Italian food.
Yeah.
So it is my favorite Italian food.
Yeah.
So
I'd say so as well. I think it's underrated when we're talking about Italian food.
I think spaghetti and lasagna should
I
be
think
should be
they're
behind
overrated.
chicken parm.
I think they're overrated.
Yeah.
Spaghetti and lasagna, spaghetti and meatballs. That's actually an American dish, not even an Italian
Yeah.
dish. So chicken parm, it's fantastic. It's definitely underrated. Like you go to an Italian restaurant, like chicken parm's on the menu. So is eggplant parm. Eggplant parm's really good.
You ever had veal parm?
No, I haven't. Good.
It's fucking good. Eating that
They-
baby
They
cow.
deep fried the veal.
Yeah.
Sauce. Oh my god. Now I'm just hungry. I'm looking forward to dinner because we are having chicken parm. But we both think chicken parm is underrated as an Italian dish. It's fantastic. People should get it more. If you don't like chicken parm, you're an idiot. So that was underrated, overrated. That's our another recurring segment. We've started this to kind of give some more substance to our show, but also to add a little bit more opportunity for our listeners to, give their opinions on underrated, overrated topics. So if you heard any of the topics and you want to give an opinion on whether they are underrated or overrated, let us know on our Facebook, Twitter page, or give us a text. See what you can do. And then also on iTunes, I know you can give us 5-star review and then give us a comment, so that'd be pretty cool. Let us know of any of the topics we talked about that are underrated, overrated. We'd love to hear your guys' opinions. But now, let's get in to our movie review. We saw Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, on Thursday night. The next epic installment of the Star Wars saga. So, it is directed by Rian Johnson. In this film, Rey delves deeper into her abilities when she struggles to recruit Luke Skywalker back to the fight as the First Order prepares to wipe out the Resistance for good. This movie stars Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Andy Serkis. Mike, what are your positives of this Star Wars film?
As a whole, I enjoyed this movie. A lot of people are disappointed and even hating this movie. Not critics. Critics think this movie is fucking amazing.
Right.
I'm in the middle. I think the movie has flaws, but overall is a good installment to the franchise. Number one on the things I liked, how they handle the Sith and the Jedi. When they centralize on that in the story, it's fantastic. I love seeing how Kylo and Rey are continuing to develop because unlike Empire Strikes Back, Vader was already a Sith Lord.
Right.
And again, Rey and because this is pretty closely after The Force Awakens, Rey and Kylo are still relatively haven't completed their arcs.
Right.
So you're seeing them train and conflict. I love that with both of them. I loved how they handled literally both of their stories, especially Kylo. I think Kylo is by far the best character in this franchise.
In the new trilogy.
In the new trilogy. They continued to Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac,
He's
didn't
awesome.
have a lot of screen time in the first one. He was in it a decent amount, but he's gone for a good portion of it.
Yeah.
He's focused on a lot in this movie. He's fantastic. He's the Han Solo of this new trilogy. He was incredible. The action was great, and the final, I'd say, half of this movie. Up until about halfway through the movie, I was teetering on how I felt, but the last half, when this one twist happens, like you said, your jaw dropped, and from then on, it became its own
awesome.
franchise.
Right.
It became its own saga.
Right.
And I compliment the movie for taking that risk. I compliment the movie for stepping out and becoming something new. Fuck the Star Wars fans, the ones that love the
People
original
who
trilogy.
criticize
The original trilogy is better. I'm not
We
disputing
know,
that,
right,
but people
yeah.
are like, they hated on The Force Awakens for not being too original. This movie takes a lot of risks and they get pissed off.
Right.
There's such hypocrites, and it pisses me off because this movie takes risks and needs to be complimented for that.
This movie is an amazing step sideways. This movie, from the moment they started marketing this film, with Luke Skywalker's line saying this isn't going to go the way you think, it didn't. Anybody who criticizes Ryan Johnson or the Star Wars saga for taking this step is kind of an asshole. People are saying you're not a Star Wars fan if you liked this movie. I think you're not a Star Wars fan if you didn't like this movie. Like, these are the same kind of people who shit on the prequels altogether. They'll shit on the TV shows. Anything that's not the original trilogy, they hate. And that sucks. And it's just not okay to just constantly look the theme of this film is killing the past. Kylo says
He
it
says it
more than
yeah.
once. This movie is about change. This movie is about giving this new trilogy a new sense of identity. This isn't your same old Star Wars movie. Anybody who's looking for that, go ahead and just watch the original trilogy over and over again, because this movie is incredibly different, and I can't compliment it enough for being different. It told a new story. It did something different. It did something shocking that made me love Star Wars that much more, because it's not just the same old story with the bad guy becoming good and the ultimate emperor, just being evil the whole time. Like, it's different, and I love it for it. That's what there's my huge positive for this movie is it's different. It gives more substance to the Star Wars story. It makes it interesting going into J.J. Abrams directing Episode 9. People who are ripping on Ryan Johnson for making this change, like, I love that he's going to get 3 of his own movies. I mean, there are some things I'll get into about pacing that negatively affects this film, but the storytelling and the direction this movie took was incredibly different and awesome, and it was just a great thing for Star Wars to do. Um, you touched upon it. Kylo Ren is amazing. He definitely took a step as one of the best Star Wars villains of all time. Certainly top 3. We talked about Vader and Sheev earlier, but Kylo Ren is definitely up there. The steps he takes in this movie are awesome. You talked about Poe. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker is the reason why I love this movie, I think, as much as I did. The storyline between the Jedi and the Sith, Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker ties it all together to finally talk on screen once again as Luke Skywalker and play the character he hasn't played since basically Return of the Jedi, because he didn't speak in Force Awakens. So to see him on screen again and talk about the Jedi Order, reference the prequels and talk about Darth Sidious and talk about how the Jedi Council isn't right to be, and then still guide Rey, but not really be afraid to continue her journey. It was just awesome. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker guides this film, and he's an awesome piece. We kind of touched on all the negatives.
I have one more positive that I forgot to say. In her final performance, Carrie Fisher wasn't Leia Organa in The Force Awakens. She didn't have enough screen time to do so. She was Leia Organa.
She was
in this
General
movie.
Leia Organa in this movie.
That was awesome.
And I can't get into more positives without talking about spoilers, and we're not going to do that. But I do have a lot of positives for this movie. I just love the differences it took and the steps sideways it took. Like I won't say it's a step forward for Star Wars. It's a step sideways because it fucks you up. The twists in it are incredible, and it keeps you on the edge of the seat. Now, negatives. What are your negatives with this movie?
About the first half, the first segment of this movie was incredible. It was a great action sequence, and then after that, I felt like the movie was left in limbo for a period of time. Like Rey's kind of meandering, Kylo's kind of meandering. He's trying to find himself, and the movie maybe does that intentionally, but it dragged.
Right.
It dragged. So that's my first negative. My second negative. Number two, second negative. Over reliant on comedy. Once the movie kind of scrapped comedy in the second half of the movie, I actually thought it was much more engaging.
Right.
Because when there's a dramatic scene and it tries to be funny at times, it takes me out of it.
Right.
This movie was doing that in the beginning.
And
sometimes.
like there's
Especially with Luke and Rey when they first meet. I didn't like that.
You didn't?
I did not
see.
like
I
that.
did like that because that was more of like let the past die, like throw the past away. I kind of like that. That was kind of like a physical
True.
motion to that. But I do agree with you. I mean, Star Wars has always had this quirky comedy feel about it. I mean, it is a space epic. The original trilogy, the prequels, all of them have these jokes in there that are lame. Some of them hit, but some of them don't. This movie does try to add in more comedy, and I agree with you in that aspect. Sometimes it's just way too trying to be funny, but then the other jokes are just typical Star Wars jokes.
And as a final negative, the movie, the main storyline is very gripping. The side stories I didn't love. You don't get a really. I like how they handled Snoke, but at the same time, he wasn't very developed. Neither was Captain Phasma, and they go down as pretty underdeveloped characters.
Mhm.
The character of Rose, I didn't even bother. Rose is this Asian girl, Asian engineer that Finn meets that they clearly put in the movie for fucking affirmative action. I'll say it right now. Call me an asshole. I don't fucking care. Disney intentionally did this. And she, to me, added nothing to the plot. Sure, she helps out Finn, but Finn already had his arc in The Force Awakens, and they repeat a lot of the same steps in this movie. And that's when I talk about this movie going into limbo. It's because they focus so much time on her backstory, where she came from. And by the end, she really doesn't do that much. And they're clearly just having her as, we have an Asian character
It's a
now.
MacGuffins.
Call me an asshole. I don't fucking care. I hated this character, and I hated every time she was on screen, and it made me dislike Finn to some
A little
extent.
bit. Yeah, okay, so I agree with you. I hate Rose. She adds nothing to the plot. She's definitely a MacGuffins. Her and Finn going into Canto Bight was complete just MacGuffins.
Finn could have done it himself.
Exactly. Finn and Poe could have done it. And that would have like got Poe off that ship, and as a commander, like going to do something that was like that would have fit his character arc for the movie. I almost just kind of revealed something that would have been a spoiler for the film. Definitely Rose Tico is a big negative for this film. You capitalized upon it enough. I feel the exact same way. She didn't add that much to the plot. She's a stupid Star Wars character. Didn't really fit the resume for being a Star Wars character, and I just don't like her side plot. I give the Canto Bight parts. I give it more credit. When I saw it a second time, like I realized like it does add a little bit more to the plot, but her involvement with the plot could have been done by Finn alone.
You didn't feel like it felt Phantom Menace-y at all?
It did, but like I mean, part of that stuff is adding more, like giving a Star Wars movie like more planets and more things to have. It did feel Phantom Menace-y, but I feel like since they were going to tie in Jedi lore with the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy and tie it in with this one, I feel like the new trilogy kind of needs moments where it goes a little astray to kind of give it more of a personal attitude, but also tie it into the Star Wars universe. So I liked it more the second time around, and I did see this movie twice. And some of the things I hated on Thursday night, I hate a little bit less. But Rose Tico is definitely not one of those that I hate less, because she still, after watching the movie again, like still adds nothing to the plot. Um, Big negative. See, like I'd like to get a backstory on Snoke, a little bit more heading forward. So I won't include Snoke much, but Captain Phasma will go down as the lamest Star Wars character in the history of Star Wars. She sucks. I'm not going to get into specifics with her, but just more of the same from Force Awakens. Captain Phasma is terrible. Um, there's a scene with Leia that's stupid.
Mm.
um, that even after watching it again, it's still not good. Um, and this film does have its flaws, but really, when I go picking and I go try and find more,
All of
I
this
will.
is in the first half.
But all of this is in. So the first 15 minutes of the movie are dope. Then it goes to Ray and Luke, and then there's about 45 minutes after Maz Kanata is just kind of shoehorned into the plot. Um, we would it be a spoiler to say what we don't find out from her?
No. Just leave that.
Okay, so Maz is just kind of shoehorned in, and she adds into the whole Rose and Finn thing, and it's just there's like a 45 minutes with just Rose and Finn that just kind of make this movie go sideways, and it all stems back to Rose. She's just a poop character and was added in by Disney clearly for, diversity purposes. And I mean, you could call us assholes for thinking that, but it's blatant. It's very blatant. And I mean, other than that, this movie was awesome. I mean, there are some flaws with it. It's certainly not the best Star Wars movie of all time, but it's not the worst.
I'm in the middle of
Yeah,
it.
it's certainly not the worst. I actually, after watching it twice, I like it more than The Force Awakens. I think I can say that. I did everything they did with the Jedi and the Sith, and the steps they took sideways to kind of throw off the traditional Star Wars plot was awesome, and I really enjoyed this film. But again, it's not the best Star Wars movie of all time, but
Not a disappointment.
no, it's certainly not. So let's rate this guy. What are you giving Star Wars Episode 8?
3.5 out of 5.
3.5.
Solid 3.5. Like I said, enjoyed it a lot. Will rewatch it. Will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I like it more the second time. I will see it
Yeah.
again. Maybe a third. I'm a Star Wars guy.
Right.
But as I stand, the flaws in the beginning, I was not enjoying the first half,
Mm-hmm.
and then threw me through a loop. The second half, I'd give a 5 out of 5. I'd love the second half.
See, I was hanging around like a high 3, maybe a 4, and then I saw it the second time. And since I wasn't, having the whole year lead up to the moment, and I wasn't stressed about what needs to happen and what didn't happen, like watching it Thursday night, like there was so much hype leading up to it, and being able to relax and see it again, watch it the second time, just kind of accept it for what it is. It made me enjoy the movie more. Some of the flaws I had on Thursday night kind of disappeared on when I saw it again. So I'm gonna give this a 4.1. I do enjoy this film a lot. Everything they do to advance the Jedi Sith was awesome. I do think it is a good Star Wars movie, definitely in the middle. Not the best, not the worst, but definitely takes some unique steps that make it a unique Star Wars story. So 4.1 plus 3.5.
I don't know what Ryan gave it. I'm assuming he's around my score.
So 3.8 we are giving Star Wars The Last Jedi overall. Definitely a worthwhile watch. It's definitely a good Star Wars movie. Adds to the lore of Star Wars and the Jedi, and has some surprises that will have your jaw on the floor. Go check it out. It's a great addition to the Star Wars saga, and continues on and adds more excitement moving forward. Now, yeah, well, comment as well if you want to let us know what you thought about The Last Jedi. For our discussion topic this week, got to keep it in the Star Wars realm. I was just kind of kicking ideas, see what we wanted to do. Obviously, in the aftermath of The Last Jedi, some people love what Ryan Johnson did and his step sideways in making this a very different Star Wars movie. Some people hate it, and I just wanted to ask the question here today: if you were directing a Star Wars movie, um, let's try and leave episodic out of it because if we talk about what Ryan Johnson did and didn't do, we might get into spoilers. So if you were to direct like an anthology Star Wars film, um, what would you do and how would you kind of express the story or character or whatever? What would you do?
There's a lot that you could do, but I have talked about it on the podcast before. I really want an Old Republic
Mm.
movie showing how the Sith and Darth Bane got the rule of two. And for those of you who don't know, the rule of two is there can only be a master and an apprentice on the Sith side because other than that they'll all start killing each other.
Right.
There's just too many because they all want the same thing, and that's power. And so I'd love that story mixed in with, well, the Jedi, obviously combating the
Right.
Jedi, but yeah, that's the story I'd really want to tell, and more so focus on the villains and maybe have the Jedi as a back point because essentially that storyline is about the Sith. And you could really get some tragic characters in there as well. I know they've explored it with Anakin, but this movie would also appeal to a lot of the older fans, I think, because with how this movie turned out, they'd want to see the master and the apprentice, and they're really high strung on that
Basic
idea.
Star Wars
Basic
storyline.
Star Wars lore. So it can sell in that aspect, and I like that rule as well. I'm more interested in seeing how the rule came to be.
Mm. And Old Republic is definitely, I mean, we've talked about it before. Old Republic is something that a lot of people want. I mean, it'd just be awesome to see so many Jedi on the screen at one time and seeing like the rule of the Sith. Like, it'd just be awesome to see something like that.
Well, like in a massive war of all Sith and all
Or
Jedi
just
going.
a bunch of lightsabers on the screen. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, lightsabers make shit awesome. So, like, I hope that's something we see moving forward. Whether you're the director and writer or not, we'll see. But, I hope it's something that's definitely being considered.
I hope,
when they're
they
talking
said
about Star
Ryan
Wars
Johnson's
movies.
getting his own trilogy.
Yeah.
I hope this is it.
Yeah. Um, I when you look at I don't know if I want anything past episode 9 in the Star Wars universe. Obviously it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and there's a lot of time in between that long time ago that they could tell. But I think if we're going forward with Star Wars movies and anthology films, I think you gotta go before episode 7. So any time in between, like the beginning of time with the Jedi and the Sith, and the Old Republic, all the way up until like post Return of the Jedi, before Force Awakens, to kind of tell a story that happens in between, would definitely be something I'd want to do. I think what stands out the most to me is the story of how Palpatine became an evil Sith Lord.
That was second on my mind.
More than obviously the prequel is kind of showing how Sidious is pulling the strings, and as he lives his double life as Chancellor Palpatine. I want to see the story of Plagueis the Wise. I want to see how Sidious takes down Plagueis the Wise.
And make that canon,
And
number one.
Yeah, and make that something that's more than just a story that Palpatine tells Anakin in episode 3. I want a story about the Sith. I want like a darker Star Wars movie. And Rogue One was an incredible movie, and I know early on in cuts they were going to make like Darth Vader the main villain, and they were going to kind of tell a story how Darth Vader like goes out and just assaults rebels.
So glad they didn't.
I'm glad they didn't too. And we got an incredible Darth Vader scenes out of that, but like we know Darth Vader's story. There were 6 whole movies about Darth Vader. I want to see more Sith that aren't related to the Skywalkers. I want to see like movies about them. I want to have like an anti-hero type of story, like where there's like a Sith Lord that we can root for almost, and then like have the master apprentice kind of thing go on and see a Sith Lord rise to power more than that's just Darth Vader. Even if it is about Palpatine, we didn't know how he got granted with the dark powers of the Force. All we have is people telling stories about it.
You
And
know
him
who would be
saying,
the perfect choice as a young Palpatine?
Who?
Tom Hiddleston.
Holy shit. I know he would. He kind of looks like a young Ian McDermott, and,
Yeah.
and he's got that weaselly face, and definitely we know he can play a villain. So, yeah, I'm so in for that. Like, if I could tell the story of Palpatine and Plagueis, that'd definitely be the first thing I'd go to. And I was kicking this idea around, and I was thinking, like, what would I want to do other than that? And this is something that could go forward considering they're going to make a lot of like anthology Star Wars films. I don't want a backstory on Yoda. I don't need another like Yoda creature. I don't, the part of the reason why
Even
Yoda's
Boba Fett. I don't want a Boba Fett
no,
movie.
and the part of the reason why Yoda's awesome is because he's the only one of his kind that we know of, and he's 900 years old, and he's a Jedi Master, and he's 3 foot tall. Boba Fett, the reason why he's awesome is because he's mysterious and has a lot of, we know he's a badass off the screen. Clearly, he's one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. But then, like, seeing him in like 5 minutes of movie time it gives more of that lore. But
But think about this.
We
but
were
think
talking about
this in the Palpatine movie. You could literally learn how specifically, like if you got into the training sessions between Plagueis and Palpatine, you could learn how he learned to use electricity, how he learned to use the force choke, how he learned to do all of those things Palpatine
Right.
knows how to do, and you could think like, oh shit, this is how Dooku learned, this is how Vader learned.
almost in a parallel of Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda's teaching Luke how to use the
Yes.
light side of the Force. We see somebody learn how to use the dark side of the Force, and there's more to it than anger and hate. All we saw Vader do in his rise to power was anger and hatred. That's what drove Anakin to the dark side of the Force. There's got to be more to it than that. Clearly, there's Sith lightning that Darth Vader never used. There's, the Plagueis knows how to stop people from dying. There's more to the dark side that could be explained, and that'd just be awesome. So these are things considering going forward when they're going to make Star Wars anthology films. Obi-Wan was confirmed, so they're going to be an Obi-Wan movie. They just got to cast Ewan McGregor. That's not official yet, but it's got to happen. And a Boba Fett movie is the next heavily rumored Star Wars movie. You, and Ryan were talking the other day. Boba Fett is clearly known for not being one of many words, and the part of him that makes him so cool is being mysterious. If they made like a Mad Max style movie, so Mad Max Fury Road, which came out a couple years ago with Tom Hardy, Max probably has like 3 lines in the whole movie.
Very few.
Very few, and he's the main character of a movie, and he barely speaks, but is a badass. I think if they did something like that with Boba Fett, that'd
Just show
make
him on a mission.
right. That'd just make it
That'd
an
be cool.
awesome Boba Fett movie. He barely speaks. There's a mysterious vibe about him, and we know he's a badass, but there's still so much to him because he barely speaks. But he's out doing bounty hunter stuff. That'd be awesome. So if they're gonna do, since Disney listens to this podcast and Kathleen Kennedy is a huge fan of ours, like if we're gonna have a Boba Fett movie, like make it like Mad Max to where he barely speaks, and there's this awesome like heist vibe about it, maybe,
Or like a detective noir kind of thriller of him hunting the guy.
that'd be awesome. So there's our idea for the Boba Fett movie. Somebody should make that. But like they shouldn't make movies about characters that are cool for how little we know about them. Like Yoda and Boba Fett are definitely the bigger two. I'm a little anxious about the Han Solo movie because of how much of a disaster that
Sounds like.
right with the pre-production, just everything, but even just the story about Han Solo. I mean, he's a smuggler, scoundrel. We know him, but does the story need to be told without Harrison Ford? I don't know. We'll see. That comes out in May, and there's still no trailer, so there's more Star Wars to look forward to. There's a hell of a lot more Star Wars stories to tell, and we just hope that the right ones are told. Because clearly, with the 50-50 viewpoint on The Last Jedi, you know, Disney and Star Wars writers are definitely going to have to start paying attention a little bit more to what the fans want because of some of the negative backlash they're getting for The Last Jedi. But then again, I applaud this movie for the sidestep it took, and we'll see how the rest of the Star Wars movies are going forward.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but that about wraps it up for today. Again, Ryan wasn't here. Mike and I had a very Star Wars heavy episode. But if you guys could rate and subscribe us on iTunes and listen to us on SoundCloud and YouTube, we're there. Give us some feedback on Facebook and Twitter. And if you can text us, let us know. But check us out on all the social media websites. The links are in the description. And again, if you could rate us on iTunes, that'd be awesome. Let us know any of the underrated, overrated topics, that your opinions on them, what you think. And if you have an idea for any discussion topic we should have, let us know. Mike, any final thoughts?
If you guys could write and direct a Star Wars movie, what story would you tell?
And
Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Stuglis, Danny Stewart signing off. Next week, what movie are we reviewing, if we are reviewing one?
We got to look. I want to see The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro. I don't know if it's showing here, though.
No,
we got to look.
The Disaster Artist is showing near us, so maybe we see The Room to see The Disaster Artist.
I saw a clip from The Room the other day.
It's so bad.
It's terrible.
It's bad. All right, but next week's movie is a mystery, and next week is Christmas, so that's awesome. All right. As always, thanks for listening. We love the listeners. Come back next week. We love you guys.
What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us.